All right, what's going on, everybody? Look, I came across this article online, and it's a magazine called Fortune Well, and there was an article written here by Beth Greenfield. It's called Generation Z, or Gen Z, and Millennial Men in the U.S. are among the loneliest in the Western world. Here's why. I found this one to be really interesting. All right, I already read it, so as I'm scrolling down here, I take a look at the image that they chose to depict men, and of course, it's a Asian, feminine-looking man gazing out the window in a kind of dark lit room, holding on to his ankles. That's how they see you guys. So, anyhow, I'm going to play the article, but I'm going to play it from here where it says, why are so many young men feeling lonely?
Why are so many young men feeling lonely? For young men, these prolific feelings of isolation, what some have even dubbed the male loneliness epidemic, is the result of a slew of factors, says Justin Yong, a New York City psychotherapist specializing in men's issues. They include digital disconnection through toxic male social media, what some researchers have called the manosphere, gaming, and porn, all of which give this short-term dopamine hit and relief that replaces real intimacy and acts as a barrier to being vulnerable to how they might be feeling, says Yong. Also an issue, he says, are societal norms around what it means to be a man, pointing to the idea of alpha men who attach stigma to being vulnerable.
You see where this is going. Those of you that are paying attention, you see where this is going, obviously, right? So they're attacking the manosphere, they're attacking alpha men as it being the problem. I'll give my reaction at the end and I'll let it go.
Those norms are internalized early, says Reichert, pointing to research that followed a group of 4-year-old boys for 2 years. It found that they changed from being present, authentic, direct, and expressive to pretense, learning to play the part by posturing the way the world wanted them to be as boys, he says, meaning strong in a macho sense and unemotional. The problem, of course, is that when they became less authentic, they alienated themselves from even their important relationships, feeling that they had to hide a part of themselves because the world didn't want that from them, beginning at age 4. These ideas are explored in Reichert's forthcoming book, No One Really Knows Me, based on findings of a State of American Men 2023 report, in which 2 out of 3 men surveyed, ages 18 to 23, agreed with that statement. Further, 49% of those men said they'd thought about suicide within the past 2 weeks. Those two things are related, says Reichert. And that's a condition I'm calling developmental precarity, which is the idea that you are on your own in your own head with no sense of someone you can trust to understand and know you. It means that when you're stressed, you really don't have any place to go, and that you are vulnerable to the echo chamber of your own mind. It's something Yong sees with some of his male clients who are just out of college, struggling to form deep connections in the wider world. There's this erosion of male friendships, he says. It seems like the depth of friendships with other men become more and more shallow, and they don't connect on things beyond sports, work, stocks. So there are men out there who are afraid to open up even to someone they might consider a good friend. How young men can find connection. Yong, who recalls working in an all-boys high school and seeing students adhere to punishing workout and grooming regimens, understood what was motivating the behavior, though it made him sad to see. They didn't want to be rejected, so they acted macho about it, he says. But what they were really saying is, I'm scared of being heartbroken, I'm sad, I'm lonely. He suggests men try to get to the heart of what they're really feeling. Help for that, he says, could come in the form of a kind, compassionate mentor to look up to. Barack Obama, politics aside, is someone he likes to point to, though...
He said Barack Obama? Barack Obama can't even control his wife.
It could be a coach, a professor, even the super in your building. He also recommends therapy, either individual or group, the latter of which has the power of allowing men to see other men being vulnerable and open. Reichert, who recently spoke on these issues for an episode of the radio show On Point, recalls a young man who talked about how he and his peers are in jail with our emotions. He notes that's where caring friends and family can really affect the lives of young men. When we give them permission to be real, says Reichert, they can break out of jail, but we have to help them.
This is what these psychoanalysts, psychologists, whatever you want to call them, this is what they do. This is the type of narrative that they paint. Notice that there was no mention of fathers in this article. Yet, but we should be looking at people like Barack Obama. Not your daddies, but Barack Obama. Look, the article paints male loneliness as a crisis of suppressed emotion, right? But let's be honest, that's not the full picture here. Men aren't breaking down because they refuse to cry. They're breaking down because they're expected to be everything and still told they're not enough. From a young age, boys today aren't being conditioned to be emotionally repressed. They're being conditioned to be compliant. Gen Z and millennial boys are taught to sit down, stay quiet, and be nice. Don't play too rough. It starts at home and then it continues in kindergarten all the way throughout school. They're told it's okay to play with girls' dolls, apologize for being boys, bear the emotional weight of their mother's past trauma. Meanwhile, girls are taught the exact opposite. They're taught to be bold, be ambitious. And what's the best one? Be independent. So let's be honest. If boys grow up confused, detached, or lost, it's not because they're too stoic. It's because masculinity has been diluted before they ever had a chance to understand what it is. And as far as gaming and the manosphere, they aren't the cause of loneliness. They're the symptoms of a world that left men behind. You can tell men to get therapy all you want, but until society stops treating them like they're only valuable when they're winning, when they're making big money, that loneliness will never go away. Men have the right, or I should say, men have never been the problem. I'll say that again. Men have never been the problem. But maybe the system that tells them to provide, the same culture that says provide, protect, and then sit quietly while being picked last is. Maybe it's time men stop dating down. Stop performing for approval. And start building with someone who sees them as more than a wallet or a walking checklist. You guys understand what I'm saying by checklist, right? 6-pack abs, over 6 feet tall, making over 6 figures. That's the checklist. They also want you to be a UFC fighter. They want that Hollywood man, which doesn't exist. I can go on and on and on about this, but the bottom line is, what's going to solve a lot of problems in this generation, whether it be Gen Z or millennials, is you guys got to make money. Make money and get your butt in the gym. You'll be surprised how working out will change a man's life. Get back in the gym. Train hard. Go to school and study something where the outcome is going to be financially fruitful. And that'd be it. That's all you have to do. Just make money and train. That is it. Look, what say you? You guys agree, disagree? I'd love to see it in the comments. And I'll see you on the next one.